Good morning. It's Jeremiah with Toyota Service and Repair. Today we got a 2007 Toyota Tacoma with a pretty significant oil leak. The customer complains of having oil all over their garage floor. As you can see, that oil pan is in pretty rough shape. Now the book calls for removing the engine to replace that oil pan. We're going to try to work around that by taking this front differential out, and should be able to get access to the oil pan that way. It should save us a few hours at least. So we're going to get into it. First, you're going to need to remove the skid plate, and you'll have to remove that front skid plate as well to get to these bolts. We'll get on that. Now that we've got our skid plates out of the way, we're going to make an attempt to just take these brackets loose, take this bolt out, see if we can get this front end to drop out far enough to get to the oil pan without having to remove it completely out of the truck. So we're going to get on that and see what happens there. Okay, we removed this bolt here. It's 22 millimeter with a 19 millimeter nut. Same thing here, 22 millimeter, 19 millimeter nut. And then this is a 12 millimeter Torx. We were able to drop this differential down probably 6 inches here. So we're going to drain the engine oil and start taking the bolts out of the oil pan. We'll see how far we can get. Alright, so we got the, had to drop the front differential down a bit further. So we had to remove this plug. This bracket would not come off. The bolt was rusted and would not come out of there, so it ended up breaking on trying to get it out. I had to take the bolt out of this vent tube up top here so that it was free. We went ahead and took the bolts out of the rack. We had to take the rack loose and move it so that we could get to the front bolts on the oil pan. There was no way to get those bolts out without moving that rack because they're in very bad shape. If you live in the Rust Belt, these things get rusted and rounded off. I couldn't even get a pair of pliers or anything on them, but thankfully we have this kit from Think Work. It was on Amazon. This kit comes with a nice set of sockets that fit right on there. So I made this job a world easier. So we were able to pull all these bolts out of the pan. Right now we're getting ready to pry the pan out of there. It's held on there by silicone. So hopefully we got this down far enough that we can get that pan out of there without having to move the front end anymore. We did have to take the drive shaft loose, so make sure you mark the drive shaft and the flange so you can put it back in the same place you took it apart, so you don't get any vibration out of it. Alright, well, let's get this pan off. Alright, well, we got the pan unbolted, and had to finagle that sucker out of there. And believe it or not, the only way to get it out was to spin it around and around until you could get it positioned to come out over the cross member underneath the transmission. So now we're going to get on to cleaning all this silicone up off of the bottom of the engine here. Get all that cleaned up, and we're going to put some new bolts in it with some new silicone and get her back together. Alright, now we got that pan surface all cleaned up, ready for some new silicone. And we'll try and fit this oil pan back up across this cross member here. Alright, with a great deal of fuss and wiggling, we finally got that pan in there. The old pan was a lot easier to get out than the new pan. The new pan was catching the pickup tube and the front differential. What I had to do was actually take a board, put it on the crankshaft, and lift it up just a little bit, try and get a little bit more space. Once we got past the pickup tube, I was able to finagle it a little bit and get it back in there. We went ahead and replaced all the bolts, minus the 2 studs, due to they were pretty rusted. So now we got to wait for the silicone to dry before we can put any more oil back in it. But now we're going to work on putting the front differential and the rack back in place while that dries. We did have to tilt the front differential up like that to get the pan to pass by the front differential. Just a little FYI. Alright, now that the differential is now remounted, the rack is mounted back in place. Now we can put the skid plates back on it. And then when we get back here to the front drive shaft, we need to make sure to line the marks that we made on the drive shaft and the flange. Make sure they're matched back up. And then it'll be time to fill the oil pan full of oil, change the oil filter, and then check for leaks. Alright, skid plates are installed. Oil filter has been replaced. Make sure that your drain plug is installed before you set it down. And we did find our hole in the oil pan. See the pinhole there. See the light through it. Alright, she's ready to sit on the ground. Side note, depending on what type of sealant you used, you may have to wait a little while. We use the Permatex 30-minute or 90-minute gasket maker. So, wait at least 90 minutes if you use this one. Fill the thing with engine oil and let it run for a little bit and check for leaks, and you should be good to go. So if you have any comments or suggestions for how to do this any better, please forward those. Thank you.